we're seeing it pivot to a lot more close-in bookings, a lot more near term. It's being a lot more unpredictable, that I don't know when a guest is actually going to book as much as I did in the past. That previously we were seeing 30 to 60 days of when an average booking window is. A lot of markets are seeing it shrinking and condensing, and what we're seeing is a lot of heavier car traffic versus airplane traffic, that people aren't necessarily jumping on an airplane to go to a destination. We're seeing a lot more people finding somewhere that is a drivable distance that they want to stay.
Welcome to RevLabs by PriceLabs.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the RevLabs podcast. As you know, we usually have faces from the industry who tell you how they started in with revenue management and any tips they have for people managing large portfolios. Where we have one such faces today. It's Aaron Gardzalla. He works at PriceLabs. What's going to be very interesting is how he joined PriceLabs. I think there's a whole great story to uncover today. But further ado, Aaron, let's welcome you. Sorry, and how are you today?
I'm doing well. Thank you so much. How are you, Thibault?
I'm good. I probably need to drink something, a glass of water or something. It's really hot here. I don't know how hot it is where you are at the moment.
It's because we're early in the morning, it's still kind of cool, but we're gonna get pretty warm this afternoon.
So as I said, you have a pretty interesting story, but let's start with the beginning. So just curious, where did you grow up, and how did you start with revenue management? Take your time.
Yeah, so I grew up just south of Denver, Colorado, in a small town called Castle Rock. I have had an industry, or I've been in multiple industries, starting with healthcare, moved into finances, and ended up just landing into the short-term rental industry within hospitality. From there, I just kind of grew into and almost essentially fell into a revenue management style role. I fell in love with the data analytics. I fell in love with the problem solving, being able to think on your toes and really be able to just generate revenue long term and be able to hit those quarterly, monthly, yearly goals and whatever owners really wanted. And just kind of transitioned and slowly transitioned up through that. And it led me directly to PriceLabs and being in a revenue management system versus being on the front lines of revenue management, being more on the back end and helping revenue managers be able to solve a lot of their problems that they're having and that they're facing, and how can they utilize a system that can really help move that needle forward.
Let's backtrack a minute because I was so in your story. I was like, at first I'm intrigued by the short-term rental company you joined. Feel free to name, not names, but what kind of company was it? Was it like out of Denver? And what kind of properties do you guys have?
Yeah, so I worked for Evolve Vacation Rental, a large property manager. And when I say large, by the time that my tenure kind of ended with Evolve of a smooth transition, the company was just about 35,000 listings that they were uniquely managing throughout US. And what's interesting about them is they are strictly US based. They don't really operate international at all. So a lot of my product knowledge and revenue management knowledge comes from US territory.
So that's fantastic because it means that you know quite a few territories then, right? You know the trends. I know what are the what are the markets that you're the most familiar with, or you are like to work a lot on when you're back at Evolve?
That's a tough question. Because my role, I was heavily floating, so I really didn't have a unique territory. I really helped whatever territories needed help. But I think one of my favorite territories that I like to work on was a unique place in Oklahoma called Broken Bow, Oklahoma. It's just kind of a hole in the wall that people don't really think of it as a great short-term rental, but anybody who has rentals in Broken Bow, they recognize how unique and how much revenue you can really earn off of it and how great of an ROI it really has. That it's a really unique territory that offers lake scenery, cabin feels, really just that old timey feeling that you can get within a really small town, but really heavily populated with short-term rental.
I really like it how you're able to weave in like the beauty, the landscapes, the how attractive a territory is with ROI and data, right? Which is that, do you think that's what appeals to you in revenue management? What are the things that you like, and what are the reasons why you actually like revenue management?
I think why I like revenue management and what appealed to me is, yes, you learn so much about territories. I mean, being in Denver, have I ever been to Broken Bow, Oklahoma? No. Do I plan on going? Yes. I learned these different places and different unique areas that I can go to, and now have places on our essentially bucket list that we can check off and really go and explore. I think that that's a really unique take of what revenue management is that finding those niche, small hole in the walls that are really ultimately generating revenue that is your ultimate goal, and not focusing in on, I don't want to say streamline, but focusing in on areas that everybody knows about, but um, kind of going off of the beaten path a little bit and finding what are unique to those areas.
And you said as well that I guess when you started out at Evolve, you were probably not doing revenue management. So how did you fall into it? I'm just curious here.
Yeah, so I started on their team called Owner Support. So really, what I was doing was helping owners with their unique listings, and whether that be marketing issues, performance issues, guest issues, just anything that you can think of that an owner may face, that's what we dealt with. And I really fell in love with revenue from that, that I started learning a lot about performance side of it, how to be able to interpret data. When are you actually falling behind, or when are you meeting market? But yes, you may be falling behind of what you hit last year on a year over year basis, and really just finding how to bring success with that performance side of it. And it was a smooth transition over to our revenue management department.
So when you I'll ask a question later about what are your favorite tips for large portfolios, because let's speaking of transition, this goes straight into PriceLabs. So what made you want to join PriceLabs?
Yeah, I being on the revenue management side of things and understanding systems, I saw a lot of different systems. Within Evolve, we did have our own proprietary system and really worked all in-house. However, I did have an understanding of what systems were out there and what was being used. And there was just something about PriceLabs that really drew with the culture, with the system itself, that I really enjoyed the fact that it really allowed revenue management to do what they wanted to do. You didn't necessarily have any hills to climb or anything like that. The way that the system was set up is that you can really hit your own unique strategies and don't have to manipulate too much to get there. and it was really attractive to me and something that I'm really happy to work with all of my clients on is really how to be able to use the system to achieve their unique goals.
I'm also curious here, the whole Mount system versus buying, into a system such as PriceLabs or any competitor that exists. So is it sometimes when I talk with large companies, I have the perception that people who have their own system started maybe some time ago. They developed their own system and they kept it. And that today, most people who are scaling, who have large, are pretty newer, tend to go towards more solution like PriceLabs rather than developing their own. What do you think is perception? True, not true? What's your feeling about it?
That's a really good question. I think that it's a really 50-50. I do see some organizations who are willing to take on that proprietary side of things and build out exactly how they want it through their own system. But I also see a lot of large users who are, like you said, moving into a revenue management software because a lot of the revenue managers that are moving into those and transitioning into those roles, they have a lot of understanding of all of the different revenue management softwares out there. Each individual may have their own favorites, but they know how the systems work. They know that they can rely on them. Whereas if you're building out a proprietary system, there may be a lot of growing pains that you run into. So there's not necessarily a right answer to what do I think a lot of people are going to. I really think that it's a 50-50, and what kind of risk are you willing to take on?
And what do you think having looked at PriceLabs, what do you think generally speaking, what do you think we are pretty good at when it comes to, addressing the needs of someone who's got hundreds of listings?
I think that there's a few different things. I think that built in the system, we already have a lot of really awesome levers that you can pull that can really drive that revenue, whether you're looking far out or last minute, however you want to operate and where you want to hyper focus on with different strategies. I also think that something that's really unique about PriceLabs is that it was developed by short-term rental users. They had their own. They built a system to fit a need, and they haven't gone away from that understanding. Ultimately, the customer is who has built the system that you know today, and it's going to continue to do the same thing. That feedback from customers is so valued within PriceLabs of how to improve the system that we always encourage any of that feedback. And I think that that's really unique because you can essentially have a hand in developing exactly what works for you.
Yeah, I call that because it's, I don't know any company who does not say that they are customer centric, right? Everybody's customer centric, but here
Correct.
it's really fascinating, right? To see how customer feedback is we use Slack for messaging, where you see this in Slack message, you see the co-founders chiming into this and making sure it happens, and then you see as well, everybody in the team, even in the marketing team, has to do solve support tickets because.
Yep.
It's right. If there's an issue, we should know about this. Even if you're in marketing, if you're a designer, you should know about the product. That's customer centricity. But I guess it's probably on a different level from you guys when you have to take on people who have issues with maybe hundreds of listings. And I'm wondering here, could be in the past, could be what you see with PriceLabs customers. What is maybe a I would say a common mistake, or let's say something you've seen several times happening with big portfolios? You're like, oh, that's something maybe people do or believe that's maybe we could talk about today. So maybe people listening in is like, oh, what's a good one? Let me check my system if we're doing that.
I wouldn't necessarily say that there's a mistake with different levers that you can pull. One mistake that I do commonly see is that maybe you're falling behind in what your occupancy goals are, or what your revenue goals are, or you feel that your ADR is slipping and you start pulling all these different levers. The problem is when you start pulling all these levers at once, something may work, but you don't know what that something was. So if you can kind of slow down and easily transition to pulling different levers to understand what is doing what, now you can ultimately affect your revenue strategies long term and know whenever this happens, I know that I can do this and affect it. Whereas if I pull every lever possible to hopefully make something stick, you don't know what worked. And now every year that you start seeing those similar types of trends that you're pulling levers, you're pulling too many levers and they could be contradictory to each other and not ultimately doing what you want, and or you just don't know what worked and what didn't.
And so imagine you are you have somebody who's interested, listening to this show, right, is interested in starting out in revenue management. What's the best way to get started these days? Would you say join a short-term rental company and just go through the rules and learn because you have to understand, or try to find some kind of training online or in some class? Is there any these days any way you can advise, or just like a lot of us just stumble into this and just try to make it?
Yeah, I mean, ultimately stumbling into something, while it does work for a lot of people, it's not always a viable option of you being able to just stumble into revenue management. Something that I do recommend is working within a short-term rental industry, whether it be a smaller PMS, large PMS, it doesn't really matter, and or even working in a revenue management software industry. Um, Being able to work real time with revenue managers who do have strategies in place ultimately help you learn how to truly optimize revenue. That there are courses out there that you can take, there are a lot of different things that you can do, but ultimately there's an art to revenue management, and working with someone who knows how to really mentor and guide and teach you a lot of the different things that you can do within will bring a lot of success. But the courses are getting better. The longer that revenue management has been applicable within the short-term rental industry, and a lot of people are almost transitioning from traditional hotel management, and they're transitioning over to the short-term rental industry and bringing a lot of different concepts that aren't traditionally used within short-term rentals. So we're really in a huge growth phase within revenue management for short-term rentals, that I think that there's a lot of different opportunities for you to take, but don't stop learning. Every day you're going to learn something new, and be open to any feedback that anybody may have, because ultimately it's going to help you grow with what your knowledge is.
That's really, really good advice. And last part of our conversation, I was just wondering about trends, right? We're recording this in the second half of July 2025. I'm just wondering what you see in the markets, that you oversee, maybe for August. How was July? How is July, and how is August shaping up?
Um, it's it's a really unique year this year. What we know from year over year data to be, and what we kind of expect things to be for July and August, and even backtracking to May and June for traditional summer months for the US, we're seeing it pivot to a lot more close-in bookings, a lot more near term. It's being a lot more unpredictable, that I don't know when a guest is actually going to book as much as I did in the past. That previously we were seeing 30 to 60 days of when an average booking window is. A lot of markets are seeing it shrinking and condensing, and what we're seeing is a lot of heavier car traffic versus airplane traffic, that people aren't necessarily jumping on an airplane to go to a destination. We're seeing a lot more people finding somewhere that is a drivable distance that they want to stay. So we're seeing a lot of different pivots and shifts within the market, and it's become very unpredictable. Just hold tight. Don't pull too many levers too soon. It'll be okay. We'll get through this, and it'll kind of even out, and we'll go back to where we were and what we know things to be in a more traditional time.
Thank you for these very wise words, Aaron. If people want to get to know you better, contact you to talk about revenue management, anything PriceLabs, what's the best way to get a hold of you?
You can definitely reach out to me on LinkedIn. You can follow me. You can add, connect with me, whatever the case may be. Shoot me a message. I'm always happy to respond. You can also send me a direct email, aaron.gardzalla@pricelabs.co. I'm always happy to respond to emails as well, and or if you want to jump on a call and just have almost like a coffee chat or whatever the case may be, happy to do so.
That's great. Aaron, thank you so much for your time today.
No problem. Have a great rest of your day, Thibault, and it was good chatting with you.
Sure thing. And for everyone, don't forget to subscribe to the show, obviously, if you like this. And you can always reach out to us at PriceLabs, support@pricelabs.co. Cheers, everyone.